All right, cool. So I got my 23andMe results back. I just wanted to share them with you guys. I've been waiting for this for a little while. I've already checked them out, but I just want to share them with you guys so we can kind of bring all the tests together. Um, so yeah, we're gonna click on the ancestry reports, and it kind of gives you like a little summary here. Um, and then if we go here to overview, cool. So here we are. So you guys can see, I am mainly Sub-Saharan African, 90%. The breakdown with Nigeria being 34%, huge part of that. Ghana, Liberian, Sierra Leone. A lot of Bantu in my DNA, and then a little bit of European, as my other test has said the same thing. And then 1.1 East Asian and Native American, some trace ancestry, which is Southern Indian and Sri Lankan, and Central and South Asian, and then 0.5% of unassigned. And then it gives you this timeline here. This timeline basically says your ancestry timeline is how many generations ago was your most recent ancestor from each population. So between 1870 and 1930, I had full-blooded grandparents that was either from Ghana, Liberia, or Sierra Leone, and then also the same thing with Nigeria, and then kind of as it follows here. So interesting DNA here. Wow. So yeah, then it kind of goes if you want to order a kit for your parents. And then it gives you kind of your chromosome breakdown, so you can highlight different parts of your DNA. So like this is West African, and then this is just a Nigerian portion, and your X and Y chromosomes. So very interesting breakdown, a little different from the way Ancestry does it, but still pretty cool. So you can kind of see what chromosomes you have, like European DNA in, or different countries, or African DNA, Nigerian. So that's pretty neat. So that is that, and then that's kind of the breakdown of the actual DNA, mainly Sub-Saharan African. So I'm really proud of the 90% of the Sub-Saharan African, and the less than 10% of the European quote-unquote DNA, but who knows what's really behind that. So that was interesting. You can check out different things here. I'll like to go next to the report and then check out haplogroups. So this is my haplogroup, which is E-M4254. And so that's what they said my haplogroup is. All that haplogroups, they say, was at one time A, started with A, branched out of East Africa. The haplogroup, from haplogroup A, haplogroup DE came about, and then haplogroup E branched off from DE. And it says the common ancestor of E-M96 may have lived in northeastern Africa or in the Arabian Peninsula Since then, his descendants have carried it throughout the African continent into the neighboring regions of Europe and the Middle East. From that, it breaks down into um, the EM180, which the EM4254, that stems off of the E-M180. So it says your paternal line stems from the E-M180 branch of E, which dominates south of the Sahara. The haplogroup originated about 17,000 years ago in the pockets of Western Africa that were inhabited at that time, when much of the continent was extremely dry due to the Ice Age climate and conditions. Over 10,000 years later, men bearing haplogroup E-M180 migrated throughout sub-Saharan Africa, spurred by the development of agriculture and ironworking in the region. It says E-M180 is most common today among speakers of Bantu languages and those related to them. It reaches levels of up to 90% among the Mandinka and Yoruba of Western Africa, where the migrations began. Farther from their origin, E-M180 reaches frequencies of 50% or higher in the Hutu, Sukuma, Herero, and Hausa. The lineage is also the most common haplogroup among African American male individuals. About 60% of African American men fall into this haplogroup, primarily due to the Atlantic slave trade, which drew individuals from Western Africa, Mozambique, and where E-M180 accounts for the majority of men. Then it kind of just tells you that you share this haplogroup with all the men who are paternal line, descendants of the common ancestor of E-M254, including other 23andMe customers, and 1 out of every 210 23andMe customers share your haplogroup. So I was really excited and pleased to get this haplogroup in specific, because this haplogroup, when you go back to the ISOGG website, this haplogroup, actually we can go to ISOGG 2018. And when you go to the E haplogroup, the E1B1, alright, cool. So the E1B1A1, or the haplogroup that I got, okay, so the haplogroup that I got, which is the M254 from 23andMe, as you see, M254. When I go to ISOGG's website, it gives you the haplogroup E, or the subgroup E-M4254, and it's under the E1B1A, and then also it gives you some of the countries that share this haplogroup with you. So very interesting. Benin, the Ivory, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Gabon, Kenya, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Southeast Africa, Sandawis, and Qatar. So this is very interesting information. And then here it is here. Also, it shows you the full stem breakdown, or the elongated portion of the haplogroup. which is the E1B1A, 1A, 1A, 2A1, which you can see this is the code or the short version that 23andMe gave to me right here. So that was super interesting to find that. And then if I go back here, this is in 2011. So when we get the E1B1 haplogroup, let's see, it goes back to U175 or U175. Where'd it go? Right here, which is the E3A8, which also goes back to the E1B1A. It's just different versions at different times, and then they find more about the DNA, I guess, and then they break it down further along the stem. So that's why I was really happy. This is a Bantu haplogroup, and so mainly people of Bantu origin have this haplogroup. So I was really pleased to have this haplogroup. And you can click here on the scientific details, and then if you scroll down, it will give you all the way the breakdown. So here's the U175 that I was talking about that the haplogroup M4254 stems from, and then that stems from the M180, which goes back to M2, the E-V38, which goes all the way back to when it branched off from DE. So very detailed. I was pretty pleased at that breakdown and detail there. So that was pretty neat of 23andMe to give. Let me go back here. And then, let's see. Sorry, guys. I want to go to my maternal haplogroup now, which is my maternal haplogroup, which is L1B. This stems from the haplogroup L and then L1. So this haplogroup, it says that if every person living today could trace his or her maternal line back over thousands of generations, all of our lines would meet at a single woman who lived in Eastern Africa between 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. Though she was one of perhaps thousands of women alive at the time, only the diverse branches of her haplogroup have survived to today. The story of your maternal line begins with her. And so I guess everyone's maternal line begins here, possibly, since she was the one of the maternal lines that survived. And then it says, when haplogroup L1 arose nearly 130,000 years ago, the human species was confined to a relative small range in eastern and southern Africa. Over time, however, members of L1 migrated into western Africa. And then it says, recent estimates propose that your branch, haplogroup L1B, arose in western Africa only 10,000 years ago. From there, L1B expanded northward along the Atlantic coast to present-day Morocco and to the Canary Islands, while many other haplogroups common to western and central Africa were swept up in migrations into southern and eastern Africa about 4,000 years ago. L1B has remained in the area since its origin. Today it reaches levels as high as 15% among present-day Nigerians and 11% among Ghanaians. Sorry if I mispronounced that, y'all. And then it says L1B is relatively uncommon among 23andMe customers. Today, you share your haplogroup with all maternal line descendants of the common ancestor of L1B, including other 23andMe customers. And then it says 1 in 3,300 23andMe customers share this haplogroup assignment, which is this says it's a rare haplogroup. It's not very common because my paternal haplogroup was like 1 in every 200. So that was really interesting to see that variant there. Some branches of L1 were swept along in the Bantu expansion. Then it goes into more detail about the haplogroup dispersion. So, yeah, man, really interesting stuff. I'm really pleased with these results, man. Still doing some digging on these results. I also did what did I do? Oh yeah, I uploaded my DNA into GED, and so I wanted to share some of my population mixes with you guys. 1 second. So this is my kit number here. If you guys want to match, see if we match, feel free to reach out to me. So let me get back to GED. And so when I plug it in to do like some admixtures here, when I go to the MDLP World 22, this one is really interesting on the breakdowns, which says that a majority of my DNA comes from sub-Saharan, which is 83.3%. And then I got some Pygmy, which is another Bantu tribe, or majority Bantu tribe, Indo-Iranian, some Near East here, Paleo-Siberian. So that was interesting. And you can also click on like oracles, and it will tell you this program is based on 4 ancestors oracle version. It will tell you who it's by, Alexander. And so this one's same breakdown it gives you, and then it will tell you the closest populations, one population approximation, which would be the Lemba derived at 6.9, and then the Bantu, Mandinka, Sub-Saharan, Ancestral, Yoruba. So a lot of Bantu tribes coming up first. So I know that I'm a descendant of Bantus, using 2 population approximation. The first one is Lemba, and then Lemba. So maybe 2 different Lemba tribes. Using 3 population approximation is Lemba, Lemba, and Lemba. And then 4 population is by Cup Pygmies, Lemba, Lemba, and Lemba. And so I'm thinking I have a lot of Lemba in me, and not knowing it. But I don't know. I'm a descendant of slaves, and so I'm trying to figure this out just as much as the rest of us are. And so that was cool to see. When I go back, you can also go to, that was the World 22. So we go to the World, same MDLP. And then this one gives you a very similar breakdown of the world populations. So some interesting ones on this one that showed up was like Paleo-African, Mesoamerican, which may be Native American. The North and East European showed up. Some Middle East, the small Caucasus, Persia, and then the Sub-Saharan. And then when you go to the Oracle again, it gives you the breakdown here. And then when you go to using one population approximation, it's back at the Lemba, Bantu, Yoruba, Mandinka, and Biaka Pygmy. And then using two, it's the same thing. Lemba and Lemba. 3, Lemba, Lemba, Bantu. 4, Lemba, 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 Bantu. Lemba, 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 Bantu, Bantu. Lemba, Bantu, Bantu, Bantu. And so those are the top 4. Thinking it gets to mix it up a little bit, but still very interesting. I'm all new to this, so if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to holler at me, and I'll be more than happy to punch those in. We can try the K23B also. And then this one says, see, the majority Sub-Saharan, still have the North African in there, and then the Archaic African, East African, and then South India. So interesting. And then South Central Asian, which a lot of these also showed up on the 23andMe test. Not so much the Asian on the ancestry, but still interesting. And it says using one population approximation: African Caribbean, African American Denver, the Kava, Bantu South Africa Ovamba, Fang, Bantu South Africa Herero, the Damara, Afro American, Himba, and Wambo. So these are some of the breakdowns here, as you guys can kind of see and go through like I did in the previous ones. So you can pause that and check it out. Going back here, I also want to do one more. We'll do one more. Do the Ethiohelix. We can try that one. We can go to Africa only. Let's see what it gives me for Africa. So for Africa, it gives me West Africa as a big portion. North Africa as the second portion. And then it gives me the Biaka Pygmy, the Nilo Sahara, and the East African, and the Mobuti Pygmy. So 2 different pygmy groups, which is interesting. I wonder where that comes from. I don't know much about pygmy, but I know they're Bantu as well. And then the East African, the small, and the Khoisan. So that all shows up there, as you can see here in an organized list. And then when you use population approximation, the first one is Congo, Mandinka, Bamoon, Haba, Fang, Hausa, Bambara, Igbo, Ganuni, Brong. So those are some of the tribes and their distance. It says using 2 population approximation, the Fulani and the Yoruba, and then Brong, Fang, Fulani, and then 4 is Brong, Fang, Fulani, Mandinka. So it's a little bit mixed up there, but I wonder if it's something all of these have in common with each other DNA-wise. If anyone has more information on that, feel free to drop that down in the comment section. And we can also check out like the Palestinian one. check out some of that Middle East. So Eastern Bantu shows up a lot here with the West African, and then also see the Palestinian shows up here, which may be some of the European. I'm not too sure. The Eastern Bantu, which we talked about. Um, and so yeah, man, pretty much a lot of the similar stuff. Here's a list of those: Western or West Africa, Eastern Bantu, Palestinian. The Biaka Pygmy is very consistent. Nilo-Saharan, and so forth. And then some of the population approximations. A lot of Bantu speaking tribes, and then Bantu South Africa. So I don't know if that's still pointing back to the Lemba or what. But if anyone has information on that, feel free to drop that in the comment section below. So yeah, man, I just wanted to get on, share this information with you guys. A lot of people are saying that this haplogroup is a very unique one, and so I'm still looking forward and looking into that. That is the Hebrew Israelite foundating haplogroup of the nation. So very excited to have maternal and paternal haplogroups. I'm very excited about my ancestry composition. Um, so yeah, man, all of that was really cool, as you guys can see. So I just wanted to get on and share this experience with you guys.